Now, welcome to another Let's Talk Some Mando, where this time it is the second episode of Season 3, also known as Chapter 18, also known as The Mines of Mandalore. So if you haven't seen this episode, you don't want anything ruined, it's a really good time to click away. Alright, so we will once again begin with your ever so brief review of this episode.
This episode was fantastic. I think it should have been the season opener. It was what I wanted to see. It was what everyone wanted to see going into the season. Everyone wanted us to see Mandalore.
Yeah, I think we wanted to pick up off the story directly, not have this kind of
Right.
side quest episode, for lack of a better way of putting it.
It had what I wanted. It had excitement. It had lore. It had surprises. It was good.
Yeah, I said in my review, I think this is what the show does best. It has a little bit of action. It has a nice little self-contained story. It connects to a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. It gives you little pieces of Manda lore. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was, I don't want to say the perfect episode. I don't want to say it was the best episode, but it was the perfect example of why the show works.
Exactly.
All right, and now let's get to the top-rated comment and begin.
Top-rated comment comes from Wandering Melon Farmer. Can I just say that I appreciate the fact that Bo addresses Mando by his actual name? It's always kind of bugged me that everyone always addresses Din as Mando. And I must admit, this episode wasn't something I thought I'd see so early on in the season. Much less a freaking mythosaur. I lost my mind when I saw it.
I mean, going over the first part there, I think that's all a stylistic choice, calling him Mando. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have, like, the gunslinger, we have the client, the Jedi, the stranger. I don't know if that was one or not.
Well, it doesn't make sense for Mandalorians to call each other Mando.
No, it doesn't make sense at all.
So I'm glad that Bo uses his name. I believe the armor even called him by name once.
I think so. Yeah, why would she call him Mando? That would make no sense.
Exactly. Mandos don't call each other Mando.
Yeah, I mean, the armor is another example. We have all these kind of generic titles. It's meant to be stylistic. You know, we're not meant to, with kind of going back to old westerns, the stranger, a stranger blows into town or whatever. That's kind of what I think they're going for with that.
Yes, they do love their spaghetti western.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. So as for the mythosaur, that was
amazing.
I usually don't say it, but that was freaking awesome. I usually I try to be a little more calm, but that was cool. That was completely unexpected.
I thought the mythosaur would remain a myth.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and even Bo-Katan doesn't seem to believe the mythosaur is a real thing. It's is it a legend? Is it an actual creature? It's kind of, one of those things. Well, and it's an actual creature. Yeah, either that or she was hallucinating.
Her superstitions have been...
Yes, have been shattered.
I agree that I wasn't sure I was going to get to see this much in the season. I feel like we've already now covered a major plot point. He is no longer an apostate.
No, he's not, actually.
I thought the quest was going to take up the majority of the season, but now we already got past that. He is bathed in the waters. He just has to bring back his proof, and he's golden.
Yeah, I was curious how they were going to handle that, because it was going to be hard to find the mines. Was it going to be a lot of obstacles to finding the mines? And no, it's pretty much an episode. Mm-hmm. I mean,
not complaining, though. I mean, it means they have room to grow this season. Where else are we going? What else are we doing? We still have the whole Darksaber and the future of the Mandalorians to consider.
Well, yeah, we also know we have, like, Moff Gideon and Dr. Pershing and other things that are coming this season as well.
And pirates.
And pirates, yes.
Next comment comes from Chase Hedges, 67. Seeing the destruction of Mandalore was pretty haunting.
Yeah, I thought it was beautifully haunting.
Yeah.
Especially if you've seen Clone Wars and... you know what that city used to look like, how many people used to live in that city. Makes you wonder how many, Bo-Katan calls it a tomb. I mean, did anybody get out? Did the Empire sneak attack more or less? Or what happened?
We know that the Children of the Watch were safe because they were not on planet.
Yeah.
But how many Mandalorians didn't make it?
Yeah, we don't know what happened to Concordia. If anything happened to Concordia, where Mando kind of points out in the episode,
I think
they're
fine because he says that's kind of where he grew up.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's not irradiated, right? So
there's got to be a reason they don't live there anymore. This is one of the great mysteries of the show.
Well, there's a lot. That's not. There's a lot of mysteries. There's a lot of kind of blank spaces where we're like, well, what happened to that, or why is this like that?
Or did the Mandalore rain some destruction there too? We actually have no idea. How come they aren't living there?
Well, we do know some Mandalorians kind of sided with the Empire, so. Could be Concordia was spared for a reason.
Right, even the protectors of Concord Dawn were working with the Empire.
Yeah. So
that's probably why the Watch left.
Yeah.
The next comment comes from Seal Keely. When I finished this episode, it left me wanting to watch the next. I was excited all the way throughout, and while it was very hand-holdy and at parts childlike, it at the end of the day left me excited and with that fantastic Star Wars feeling.
I think that's part of the problem of Grogu. Is like there's exposition in this episode, right, where he's explaining things to Grogu, and when you're a baby and you can't like talk back, all you can do is emote. It does feel very childish in a way. I mean, because he's kind of he's the insert character in that moment, right? He's the one explaining, we're Grogu in that instance,
yes,
right?
We're the
he's
everyman.
Explaining to us like, that's Mandalore, that's Concordia.
Even when Bo comes back, she's explaining to him the history, and he can't be like, hey, I already heard this.
Exactly. So it's kind of rough when the insert character, the one who's getting it explained to, which is also us, the audience, is a child who's being very childish. So it comes off feeling hand-holdy and more exposition-y, if that's a word, than it probably normally would.
I did like that Grogu got a chance to shine other than just being a cute thing, is he went and he got help. He did exactly what he was meant to do.
He did.
He obviously did learn something because he was able to direct the astromech. This is where we're going. This is where bo-katan is. And able to convey to her that, yeah, I need you to come with me.
I think that's another reason why it felt a little hand-holdy. Not saying that it was bad, but he does really just like, that's where bo-katan is. 5 minutes later, go get bo-katan. All right,
yeah.
But no, I have no problem with it. I like that Grogu was kind of one of the heroes of the episode.
And it was true. The moment the episode ended, I was like, but keep going.
Yeah, I know.
I would love to know what it keeps, I want to know.
What was her reaction to seeing the
next?
mythosaur? Yes.
Yeah.
And did Din see it? I don't know if Din actually saw the dang thing.
I don't know if he was still conscious. I mean, that step erosion kind of just
we
sunk
got
him like a rock.
Yeah, we got a comment on that later, so we'll save the talk about the steps and everything until later.
But yeah, it did feel like Star Wars, which is nice.
Yeah, I thought it felt very Star Wars-y.
Yeah, it's appreciated when it feels like what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah. I mean, the different, as I talked about in a video the other day on my channel, different tones, right? This is not meant to be Andor. Andor is its own thing, and it's, in my opinion, a phenomenal thing.
Absolutely.
But I think this was, as I said at the top, I think this was the perfect episode of The Mandalorian. Not that it was the best episode or anything, but this is what the series should strive to be.
Absolutely. Our next comment comes from Legends and Theories. This was a crazy episode. I can't believe this much happened so soon. I thought that he would not make it to Mandalore until the middle of the season. I loved that Peli was pulling off a scam with the Jawas and seeing the ruins of Mandalore, but the best part of the story is that Grogu had to take the lead and save Din, which is a great subversion since he was constantly being saved by him. It was also awesome to see Bo rescue Din and not take the Darksaber, showing she has honor, and I can't wait for a better look at that mythosaur.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much more mythosaur. I mean, are they going to go down there and try to tame the great mythosaur?
Maybe that's how she'll prove herself. Well, I don't need the Darksaber if I can tame a mythosaur.
I think that's kind of part of what's going on here. Like, the Darksaber is not going to be the key. The key is going to be her embracing true Mandalorian ways, the creed, and rising as a leader without the Darksaber. I'm not saying she doesn't end up with it. We see in the last episode how all you got to do is wave the thing around if you have it and people follow. I think she's realizing that's not the way to actually lead people.
Right. I think she's trying to step into the responsibility that she's kind of been flippant about.
Yes. Yeah, you see at the beginning of the episode, too. She's all these childish stories. She doesn't really take anything seriously when it comes to the creed and history.
No, but I think she immediately started taking things a little more serious in the moment Din started with utmost seriousness and reverence.
Yeah. Well,
taking the creed.
Yeah, I love that moment where she talks about how her father died protecting Mandalore, and you see, Din's like, this is the way. And he doesn't, he means that dead seriously. Like, that's the highest honor to die defending Mandalore. And I think that touches her a little bit to know that Din actually cares about this stuff. That was kind of a turning point, a slight turning point, I think, with her. Mm-hmm. When she realizes, okay, he takes this seriously, but there's something to it.
Not to mention the moment that she has the Darksaber in her hand, she has a connection to that blade.
Oh, she wields instantly. It like a champ, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to see. We saw in the episode, they made sure to show us that Mando is still struggling with the blade. He hasn't really attuned to it. He hasn't really connected to it.
He still fights the blade. She picks it up and
it's a part of her.
Yeah, like riding a bike for her. It's like right back up on there and slicing up cyborg things.
You mean General Grievous's leftover eye?
Whatever that was. My first thought was Dianaga. Like, that was the first thing I thought. I don't know why, because maybe it was just to the eye. I have no idea, but it kind of looked like a buggy General Grievous.
But it's interesting because it lures people in. I wouldn't be surprised. Remember that relic that he got from the Jawas? What if that is something deliberately done to lure people to the planet for it to trap?
That's an interesting theory.
I wonder if it also traps the mutants. I wonder if it catches them too. The
Probably.
trap may not have been specifically set for Din or an off-worlder. It might be there just to catch them.
Yeah. Probably.
Use their fluids to stay alive or whatever.
Yeah, we don't get into that. Probably just sustenance.
Yeah, it's creepy.
But no, it was interesting, and many people pointed it out, that she didn't try to take the Darksaber. She gave it back to him. You could almost argue she earns it. That here's the creature that defeated Din, and she takes the Darksaber and defeats what Din could not. She's got a case there, right?
She really does, honestly, because Din was as good as dead.
He was.
He already had beaten Din and taken the saber from him. Now it was his, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, in a way, it was kind of for
way.
a little while there. Bug Grievous was ruler of all Mandalore. Well,
he probably had been for a while.
Yeah, like he kind of still is, because he's the only one really there doing something, as far as we know. But interesting to look at it that way.
The next comment comes from Question Man. In a way, bo-katan was also redeemed in living waters. She is gaining something she did not get the first time she bathed in them as a child. Faith. Most of Mandalorian culture practices she exhibited were from rote, born of duty and ambition, not belief. Without that foundation, when faced with culminative disappointment, her old ways were completely torn down, even to the point of leaving the Darksaber for Din, right after using it to save him. However, this experience, culminating in the Mythosaur sighting, ignites her Mandalorian heritage, and now a new way is being born in her.
Yeah, I think that was the moment when everything she didn't believe in suddenly has to be called into question.
What if the Mythosaur was like choosing her?
Maybe. I mean, we have a comment that kind of maybe touches on some of that later,
okay.
But no, this is her. I like that. This is kind of her baptism. We do see the baptism at the beginning of the first episode, right? Where, the waters, and this is her going into the waters and coming out a different person, right?
It's just going to be weird, because is she going to take the helmet off? Is that going to be what we think takes away her baptism? Or is the helmet not that big a deal? And it's about the creed and sticking to the life.
Yeah, I mean, the helmet is probably the one that is, if it didn't have that stupid rule, the creed sounds pretty okay. No, I mean, I think she's going to maybe blend the two a little bit. Because I do think she's destined to be the leader of Mandalore. I don't think it's going to be Din. Mm-hmm. Din, he's got his own things going on, I think.
Right, this is why I'm so excited for the next episode. We have to see how this experience just changes bo-katan.
That's why it sucked that it just kind of ended. Because you can tell, she's got a helmet on, granted, but you can tell, like, there's a lot. The wheels are spinning right now in her brain.
Yeah, she's got to have thoughts and questions, and these are beliefs she had when she was a child, most likely.
Well, didn't have. Yeah, that was kind of, she was probably taught by the other, her father, like, these are the things we tell the people.
This is what you do because it's the proper thing to do. And she's an adult who got disillusioned, and she's like, you know what? It was all garbage what I did when I was a kid. Yeah. None of it meant anything, and now she
calls
sees.
It theater, yeah. She calls it a show for the people. Mm-hmm. Because she's never believed in it, but...
Well, and now she's doing it away from that theater.
Yeah, there's no reason, exactly. There's nobody for her to convince anymore. It's her coming to her own belief in it, and probably then spreading it to others and be like, man, there's a mythosaur down there.
Mythosaur.
Maybe she rides that damn thing out of there. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't.
But she really could. I mean, they're talking about how she was I'm going to retake Mandalore. I have all these ships to retake Mandalore. Just go down there and start building.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because she did, I'm building an army to retake Mandalore. Maybe faith is the real way to retake Mandalore.
It could be. Next comment is from Clay Snyder. I'm so glad that they wrapped up the droid storyline right away. That is something that could have been dragged out for an entire episode. Also, I feel like the underground creatures were an homage to the Morlocks from the Time Machine movie, which I thought was pretty cool. Overall, great episode.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure that the IG thing is done.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah, there are rumors and leaks out there that imply it might be going on yet.
Well, there's still the droid bar. I know he's going to go to a droid bar. Why is he going to it unless he's possibly looking for parts?
Yes.
R5 did what it needed to do.
Did it, though?
Sort of. It checked the air quality and said it was good.
It took one sampling in one location, and now the whole planet is fine. That was my biggest nitpick or pet peeve of the episode, was he kind of goes out and the air is no radiation right here.
Well,
so
it
the
was
whole
down
planet
in there
must
a little
be
bit.
Fine. Yeah, but I'm saying I'm saying Din kind of declared the whole planet as being not poisoned or cursed, and it's like, well, you checked one area. maybe the radiation is concentrated elsewhere. Maybe there's poison elsewhere. But again, a
Hey.
minor nitpick.
Well, if you would have brought IG with, then bo-katan probably wouldn't have needed to come. IG would have saved him.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get, you can see the pieces of how it all played out, right? You can understand, like, he needed the R5 because the R5 would pilot him back to Din, and you can see it all laid out that way. I understand story-wise why it was done that way, but originally he wanted IG-11 to kind of scout ahead to see...
Spelunking.
Yes. Which for some reason, I think Batman every time I hear that now because,
I remember.
Yeah, anyway... So you wanted IG-11 because you wanted someone to go ahead and check the air continuously, right? Because there might be pockets, and that was kind of forgotten. He even says that's what he wants him for. And that's just kind of forgotten, conveniently.
Well, I think he assumed that if the mutants could run around, I guess it must be fine.
Sure, which
Even
I
though
do.
they're mutants.
Yeah, I do think there was a resemblance to the time machine there.
There was.
There definitely was. Also, Planet of the Lost, is that what it was called? It was a show. I can't remember what it's called now. But Land of the Lost. That sounds what it was. Something I seen it as a kid a couple times, and for some reason there was like talking dinosaurs or something. I have vague memories of that show when I was younger.
Oh boy.
I don't know why they reminded me of that. Maybe there's a reason, and someone will explain it to me in the comments. But anyway, no, I think there was some callbacks to other things with those guys.
Next comment comes from Josh LaPla. Interesting point you make about Bo-Katan's people following power. They have no regard for the Creed, but are obsessed with the Darksaber. Meanwhile, the Armorer does recognize and respect the Darksaber, but doesn't hesitate to banish Din just because he has it. The Creed matters more to Din's people than symbols.
Yeah, the Creed is everything. It's just a symbol to them.
I think I read there was an interview with Katie Sackhoff about her people, and she might be talking more out of spite than about them just following power so much. They might have abandoned her because she abandoned the chance to reclaim the saber.
Maybe, but...
She came back without it. Casca was there. Casca saw everything. She could have challenged Din for the right to it, to do an actual fight. Now, yes, he didn't want to fight, but she could have forced it. I don't know. Maybe she could have tried harder.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
It could have shown when she returned without the saber that she didn't really truly want to fight. That she didn't really truly want to fight for her people.
Well, that's probably what it felt like, right?
Probably what it felt like to them.
Some
and
sort
they
of
weren't
betrayal.
there.
You let this guy keep it, and you're not going to take it.
You didn't fight him for it. You didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't kill him to take back this power, this respect that we need.
We recognize and is the only thing we truly respect. They're not about the creed. They're about power.
It could have also been then that they thought she abandoned them.
Could be.
Give and a take. Next comment is from MC Creations. This episode was definitely jaw-dropping. Great story and fantastic visuals. The only thing is, I don't think Din just fell there. I think something pulled him in. Perhaps even the mythosaur itself. I don't really know, but that was my impression.
He does fall really fast. He does sink like...
Well, Beskar isn't light.
Well, sure, but I don't know how fast Beskar sinks in water, but like he was like... Bo-Katan jumped in immediately after and had to like rocket back to the bottom.
It's true. I mean, yes, the steps were probably eroded.
Yeah, I think from the bombing, the steps broke away. Otherwise, Bo-Katan mentions, hey, it gets really deep after about 5 feet.
Mm-hmm. After you take a couple of steps in, be prepared for a drop.
Yes. So I'm assuming that the mythosaur or mythosaurs have lived under there for eons at this point, right? Generations, thousands of years. And recently it broke away during the bombing, which is kind of fitting in a way, right? The Empire released the thing that will reunite Mandalore eventually. And so that's what I think happened. Now, did the mythosaur like grab him and pull him down? Probably not, but...
Undercurrents, who can say what happened, but
yeah, he does.
It could have been really fate. Could have been the Force that pulled him down.
Who the heck knows? But he does sink really, really fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets swept under.
Yeah, he gets... It does seem like he gets pulled.
It could be that, like you said, the bombing opened up some cracks that cavern wasn't originally connected to and created some sort of a strong undercurrent pull that they weren't prepared for.
Yeah, could be a lot of
she wouldn't even have known about.
No, she clearly didn't know that was... I mean, she's just sitting there watching him. She's going to tell him, right? The way she jumped in, she was kind of caught off guard, too. Like, oh, crap, there was...
What's with Mando always taking off his jetpack when he's going to need it? This is not the first time he has taken off that jetpack when he was going to need it.
He knows when he's going to need it and promptly abandons it when he does. It's kind of... it's very convenient, isn't it?
It's rather convenient, yes.
I mean, it makes sense. He took off like his cloak and his other things, so I get why he took that off. But I don't want to get water in that anyway. Normally, though, bo-katans work just fine in the water.
Yeah, it's like a propulsion.
Yeah, it is.
Final comment this week is from the Frozen One. I thought Bo's comment about not being an embarrassment to her father was interesting. I wonder if it could be a mild jab at Satine for her pacifism in the Mandalorian schism.
Well, that's the one part we haven't talked about at all.
No.
That Mandalore went pacifist.
No, they don't mention that at all.
No, that's kind of overlooked or forgotten. Like, she's blaming the cults that break away, but your sister turned your culture into a bunch of pacifists.
And I wonder if it's because of the loss of the father.
Perhaps.
I mean, Satine and Bo were both raised by their father. And then what happens? Her father dies defending Mandalore during civil wars.
Yes.
So after her father died and Duchess Satine ends up taking control and leading Mandalore as the next in line for the throne, she's maybe so upset by her father's passings, by the schisms within her people, that she goes, you know what? We're done with war. We're done with fighting.
Well, yeah, even Bo-Katan recognizes that infighting has been a big problem.
So that might have led her to choose pacifism. And that eventually upset bo-katan, and she splintered off with Death Watch, with the group who said, no, we're still warriors. Because she says, you know what, my dad, we're warriors. We fight for Mandalore. And then she was almost taught by her older sister that fighting for Mandalore was pointless. We're pacifists. We shouldn't be doing this. It's crazy, but it could have definitely influenced their family dynamic.
Well, I agree, which is why I think it's kind of interesting that they haven't brought up Satine at all and what happened. I mean,
Maybe they think they'll have to do too much recapping?
yeah, maybe they think it'll be just too kind of confusing, unless you've seen Clone Wars, obviously. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to erase that little tidbit of information. They don't want to run with it, that they were pacifist for a while. Not a while, really. It was a pretty short-lived thing, but I don't know. It's curious that she hasn't been mentioned.
No, not at all.
Nor that little time period mentioned. Anyway, I think that's going to be all we got for you this time. So now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you think of this episode of The Mandalorian, or tell us what you think of what anyone, including us, had to say about some of these comments. And let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.